The car market has flipped. For real. For the first time in what feels like months, maybe even years, the car market has shown an average year-over-year increase. According to Manheim, the Manheim Used Vehicle Value Index fell to 204.8 in the month of December, but that is an increase of 0.4% from a year ago. In fact, a spokesperson from Cox Automotive had to say, and I quote, "On the margin, wholesale vehicles declined just a bit more than usual right at the end of the year, but when all is said and done, it was our most normal year for depreciation trends in the last 5 years." Now, even though the car market is up year over year, month over month, we actually saw a decrease, and car prices decreased in the month of December compared to the month of November, and that decrease was 0.8%, which is good news because in the month of December, we actually saw an increase. So the fact that prices had declined in the month of December shows that that November trend is not going to continue, at least not for 2 months in a row. Now, the 3-year-old index, which is an index of 3-year-old cars, and it gives us a pretty good gauge on what the car market is looking like in the used market. That decreased by 1.3% with an accelerated decrease in the last couple of weeks of the month. And over the course of the month, MMR retention was at 99.1%. This means that while cars were selling for a discount compared to MMR values, they weren't selling for a steep discount. I know I've said this 1,000 times on my channel, but MMR retention is just a metric to gauge how much of the discount cars are selling for, or in some cases, like what we saw in 2021 and in 2022, car prices selling for above their values, so like above MSRP pricing kind of. An MMR retention of 100% means cars are selling for their true MMR value. Below 100% means they're selling for a discount, and above means that they're selling for a markup. Now, overall, what the trends in December showed us from the Manheim perspective is that car prices did go down, even though we did see that year-over-year increase. In the month of December, as a standalone month, car prices declined. This is pretty much across the board from the 3-year-old index to just the Manheim Used Vehicle Value Index, we saw declines, even if that year-over-year data saw an increase. Now, looking at the overall car market, while the total car market did see a 0.4% increase year over year, all of the other segments still saw year over year declines, with EVs still seeing by far the largest declines of 7.6%. Luxury cars sitting in second with a decline of 1.5%, followed by compact cars with a decline of 1.1%. Mid-size cars, pickups, and SUVs and crossovers, they are all trailing really close together, declining in price by 0.5%, 0.6%, and 0.7%. So again, what this chart is very clearly showing is that the car market is normalizing. Car prices aren't seeing these huge swings in either direction any longer, and I've said this in a number of videos over the last 6 months or so, but I predict that we will not see large swings in the car market probably again for a very long time unless something substantial happens like an economic crash. Now, this is my first market report of the year, and so I'm excited to take a look at Car Guru's. Now, you guys know if you've seen my videos before that I like to check out Car Guru's Used Vehicle Value Index because it gives us a gauge on not only what the used wholesale market is selling for and what prices are at, but it also gives us a gauge on what people are listing their car for on platforms like Car Guru's. And you can see here that while of course we did see our ups and downs, ebbs and flows throughout the 2024 year, overall, without a shadow of a doubt, the car market has seen declines. And according to Car Guru's, over the course of this period of time, the car market saw a decline of 5.35%. You know, I feel like one of the big downsides of the car market explosion and subsequent crash that we saw over the last few years is that I think that we've all become a bit numb to what normal declines are within the car market. Because I know that for myself, whenever I look at this graph from Car Guru's, sort of my knee-jerk response is saying, oh, only 5.3%, that's all we saw throughout the entire year. And whenever we look at the actual value of the average used car within Car Guru's, sitting at $28,693 at the beginning of the year, and going down to $27,172 at the end of the year, that change really doesn't feel that substantial. But the truth is, seeing a 5% decrease within the used car market, especially in the context of something like Car Guru's, that's actually a pretty good decline. And I think that we as a society and we as car buyers and consumers need to get used to this being the norm and not this 10, 20, 30% declines that we have been seeing over the last few years. Well, now, whenever we scroll down to body style, you can see that across the board, all of the different body styles have seen pretty good declines year over year over the last 90 days as well as over the last 30 days. And if we scroll down to makes and models, you can see kind of more of the same. The vast majority of makes and models are seeing declines. Many of them are pretty decent declines, with a couple of cars that are appreciating mixed in there. Those two cars being Ferrari and Cadillac. We are even beginning to see some short-term leveling off with some of the most volatile brands, like Tesla, which has only declined in value by 2.45%, just a bit higher than what Toyota has seen. Polestar, which has declined by 4.69%, which is high in the context of the current car market, but is pretty good for Polestar, with many of these other automakers seeing declines of anywhere between 1 and 2%. Now, again, this data is kind of boring, and I would love to figure out a way to sensationalize this in order to get some more views, but the truth is, we just can't. The fact is, the car market is normalizing. We are seeing these month over month and over 90-day periods of time. We're seeing these decreases that are much smaller than what we saw this time last year. And while it does feel as though this may not feel like a good thing, it absolutely is. Now, one thing that I talk about all the time is we can talk about the prices that cars are worth and how much they should be selling for all day long. But at the end of the day, all that really matters is what people are actually paying for the cars that they're wanting to buy and how long it's taking for sellers to actually sell their cars that they're selling. And so in order to get a good gauge on that, I love to check out cars.com, and I like to see how long cars are sitting for, how many price reductions these dealerships and car sellers are having to make, and just what does just vehicle listings look like in general. And so in order to do this, I've gone over to cars.com. I've selected used vehicles 2021 and up to kind of reflect that 3-year-old index, as well as 40,000 miles or less. If you were doing this on your own, you could choose any filter you'd like, and you could also make that mileage either more or less. This time I've chosen 40,000 miles. And you can see really quickly that across the board, the deals are sort of all over the place. But there is one thing that most vehicle listings have in common on platforms like cars.com, and that is that dealerships and sellers are absolutely offering discounts. This is especially true in the month of January, when we've just exited one of the busiest seasons of the year, and for many businesses, January is one of the slowest months of the year, dealerships and car sellers included. We have this 2024 Toyota RAV4 LE, which has just under 24,000 miles, and this car is listed for $28,498. If we scroll down, you can see that this car has been listed for 27 days, and it's seen $1,500 in price reductions. Nothing to write home about, but certainly better than nothing. This 2022 BMW X5 M Base, this is listed for $79,298, and it has just under 36,000 miles, and this car has been listed for 60 days and has $1,700 in price reductions. We have this 2022 Mercedes-Benz GLE, which is listed for just under $41K, has just under 28,000 miles. It is advertised as having a pretty substantial price drop just recently. And when we scroll down, you can see that this car has in fact been marked down quite a bit, having markdowns of over $7,600. Even electric vehicles aren't seeing a ton of major price reductions. This 2023 Rivian R1S, which is listed for just under 70 grand, it's been listed for 75 days and has only seen $2,000 in price reductions, which for an EV really isn't that much. Or we have something like this 2021 Dodge Challenger, which is listed for just under 43 grand, has just under 13,000 miles. And you can see that this one again has pretty good price reductions. Now, these are just a handful of examples of the different listings that are on cars.com. And of course, there are so many others across hundreds of different makes and models. But one thing that whenever I was doing research for this video, I found to be pretty true is that across the board, there just isn't really predictability with the discounts. Some automakers are offering heavy discounts, some are offering very small ones, and it seems as though the sellers that are offering heavy discounts versus the ones that aren't, there really isn't a huge correlation of how long the car has actually been sitting on dealership lots. The discounts are just sort of random, which I believe points to something that I've talked about many times on my channel before, which is that dealerships are having a hard time facing the reality that the car market is no longer in their favor. The car market is returning to normal, the days of dealership markups are over, and as a result, their cars are having a harder time being sold. So the consensus here is that car prices are normalizing, but they are still going down. But despite this, dealerships are still delusional. And so if you are someone who is going to buy a car, especially at a dealership, you need to make sure that you are still vigilant, that you stick to your guns, and that you do your research prior to going into the dealership. If a dealership is stuck in their ways and they're not willing to negotiate on price, make sure to bring up the fact that the car market is falling, and knowing some statistics to support this would be a good idea as well. Bring up how long the car has been sitting at their dealership lot. That is also a great negotiating tactic. And also be willing to walk if they are not willing to budge. Like always, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it, so make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.